Okay, so here's the review of right triangles. The first one is find the geometric mean of 36 and 4. So you can set up a proportion. 36 over x equals x over 4. When you cross multiply, I end up with x squared equals 36 times 4. I leave it like that because I don't have a calculator for this test, so I want to be able to simplify without needing a calculator. 36 times 4. So this ends up being x is equal to the square root of 36 times 4. Okay, which is the same thing as the square root of 36 times the square root of 4. X is equal to 6 times 2, so x ends up being 12. For number 2, so we go through the same procedures that we always do for this relationship. So first thing I do is, can you use Pythagorean theorem to solve for a side? No. Second thing is I add my parts, so I have x plus 5 here. Now, if you remember, hypotenuse over leg equals hypotenuse over leg. Okay, but we have a little shortcut. It is leg squared equals part times whole. So I know radical 6 squared is equal to x times x plus 5. So 6, my square radical 6 is equal to x squared plus 5x. I notice here that this is a quadratic. In order to solve a quadratic, you have to set it equal to 0. So I subtract 6 from each side. So I have 0 equals x squared plus 5x minus 6. Now, when you have a quadratic, we're going to use factoring to solve because we don't have a calculator. So you can either use the box method, okay, where you have an x squared here and a negative 6 here, or you can use your distributive property method, splitting the middle, where I know it starts with x squared, I know that this is 4 terms and ends with 6. So what I'm looking for here is I'm looking for two numbers, they multiply to be, well, 1 times negative 6 is negative 6, and they add to be 5. Okay, so I think about those two numbers, I know that they're going to be positive 6 times negative 1, so I'm going to have a 6x here and a negative 1x here. I go across, my greatest common factor of x squared and 1x is x, 6x and 6 is 6, this is x, and this is minus 1, okay? Do the same thing here. If this is the way that you're comfortable with, this is going to be a positive 6x minus a 1x. I look here, the greatest common factor is x, that's going to be x plus 6. Only common factor here is negative 1, also x plus 6. I notice they both have the same thing. So this is x plus 6 times x minus 1 is equal to 0. So do you see that I get the same two factors? So I have either x plus 6 is equal to 0, so x would be negative 6. But I look here my problem, and we're talking about distance, so distance can't be negative, so it can't be negative 6. Or we have x minus 1 is equal to 0. I add 1, and so x can be 1, which is my answer. Moving on to number 3. I can add both of the parts, which are 4, but this is that relationship. Short leg over long leg equals short leg over long leg. So I know that the altitude squared is equal to part times whole. So in this case, x squared equals 1 times 3. X squared is equal to 3. I take the square root, and x is equal to radical 3. And that's your answer for that one. Number 4, it says find each variable. So first thing, I look, is there any Pythagorean theorem? No. So the next thing I do is I add both parts. So this is 7. I remember my big leg, the leg squared, equals part of the hypotenuse times whole. And I know altitude squared is equal to part times part. So I start with y. I know y squared equals 2 times 7. So y is equal to the square root of 14. I can't do anything with that. I know x squared is equal to 2 times 5, so x is equal to radical 10. And I know z squared is equal to 5 times 7, so z was equal to radical 35. Okay, and that's just knowing those formulas. Number 5, very similar. Let's see, can I do any Pythagorean theorem? No. So I look, I know 3 squared is equal to 5 times b. So 9 is equal to 5b. Divide by 5, divide by 5. b is equal to 9/5. I know h squared equals a times b. Well, that's not going to be really helpful because I only know what b is, I don't know what a is. I also know that 4 squared is equal to 5 times a. So 16 is equal to 5a. So a is equal to 16/5. Well, now that I know a and b, I can find h. So this is h squared equals 9/5 times 16/5. I multiply across, but since I don't have a calculator, I'm just going to leave it unsimplified. So this is 9 times 16 over 25. I take the square root of each side. So I have h squared equals the square root of 9 times 16 over 5. The square root of 9 is 3. The square root of 16 is 4 over 5. And so my final answer for h, actually this should not be an h squared. This should just be an h because we took the square root. So I have h is equal to, all sorts of mistakes. H is equal to 12 over 5. Okay, and that's it for standard A.